Hi, AFI Movie Club. This is Sterlin Harjo. I'm the writer and director of Barking Water. I think sometimes you learn what the film's about after you make it. And with this one, it always felt like a person's wish of what their last days would be like. You know, this scene right here, it's about her sort of like monitoring him and seeing how his health is as they travel. We were in the car a lot and we were driving by this territory town in Okemah, Oklahoma, home of Woody Guthrie. And we saw this old Western town and just the implications of natives and sort of how we existed in Westerns. You know, we've always been sort of extras and the backdrop, and the idea of like having this older couple that are facing this crisis, sort of going through this town, and what happens when the only people in this town are native people and they have a good time with it.
Give my clothes to a poor.
Every road trip with a couple, you always get like annoyed with the other person's music. And I had to have that in here. I was like, what's a road trip without getting angry about a song?
What are you doing?
Rewinding his song.
Why?
We'll play it again.
Could you play another song, please?
I had this like really fancy camera techniques that I was gonna try to shoot this with. The camera was gonna be coming, you know, around on the window and all this stuff. And it was like really thought out. And the DP, Frederick Schroeder, and I had this mapped out. It was gonna be amazing, you know, it's gonna be the scene that they talk about. But it wasn't working. The argument wasn't working. It felt very flat. And I realized that I cared too much about the way it looked and how I was gonna shoot it. So I just threw everything out the window and had the argument happen right there, and I moved the camera handheld back and forth between them so that that tension was there, and it helped with the performance. It helped with everything.
I'll close my door.
She gets out and she's like trying to save face because she's trying to be strong for this guy, her old lover, but she's had enough. And we picked this piece of the land because I was on a low budget and I needed to use the landscape to tell the story. So we would really kind of be open to finding everything that could help express what the characters were going through. And it really sort of leads us into what is more of the documentary aspects of this film, which as the film moved, I wanted to feel more like a documentary and more real. And I chose this location because of this smoldering fire that was happening that I feel like sort of represents their relationship and her feelings about him and how she's going to take him to the end, but she's not going to do it without getting annoyed by him.
Just play it quietly. Bonk my head.
You know, if I show this with a crowd of native people, it was always like really funny. Like they got all the subtle jokes and stuff. For instance, the moment where she checks him to see if he's breathing, everyone laughs. In this moment when she's alone because he's asleep, she lets her guard down a little bit. And there's something very funny in that. Its European premiere was at the Venice Film Festival, and the Italian audience did not get any of the sort of subtle, sort of regional native humor that's in it. It was just silent through the whole thing. But then at the end, you know, right as we're about to like run out, the lights come up and the whole audience stands up and gives us a standing ovation. And as you know, a lot of people are crying. I can see people crying in the audience. And it was just a lesson in like, you know, they might not have got the humor, but they did get the universal sort of love story and story of death. It was a lesson in like how different audiences can connect to things in different ways, and how it is important to make sure your story is sound and that you are telling a story and that people can relate to that story on a human level.